Hi, everyone. This is Steve, and I'm joined again here today with our friend, Geraldo Lemos Neto.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
A pleasure to be here with you.
And this is a cool week. We got to see you on Monday talking about the Aryan expansion.
Yeah.
Which is a very interesting topic. And then today we're talking about
The
exile, according to Allan Kardec. So both very familiar topics to me from having read Genesis and Caminos de Luz, On the Way to the Light.
Yeah.
So very good. I was very
I
was excited to hear both. Yeah, and a lot
of
things.
Always a pleasure to be here on BSS.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of things that I had read about in those books, but you had a lot more information than I had from other sources and things. So I was really I got a lot out of it myself.
Good.
I appreciate it. So today we're here to talk about the topic of cremation.
Yeah.
Right. So it's an interesting topic because a lot of people don't always know when we have a lot of our traditional beliefs that were handed down through the generations about what we're supposed to do when people die, as far as funeral services and burial or cremation and certain things too, like organ donation. And when you become Spiritist or you start to become enlightened by the fact of the afterlife, knowing that your life goes on after death, then some of these topics actually become really important as far as actually cremation, organ donation, take on a whole new meaning. So tell me, because we just did a podcast in Portuguese. I was present, but I didn't understand any of it.
Okay, no problem.
So tell us what
we can say something about this in English. And it's interesting because my mother made me sign a document that she would be cremated. It was her will. And then I was preoccupied, and then I went to Uberaba to talk to Chico Xavier about that. And he was very, very preoccupied. And he told me one thing that he himself knew a very nice woman that was friend of his. She was from the city of Casabranca in São Paulo. And by the saying of Emmanuel, she was a champion of charity. She devoted all his life to the ones in need, helping. She was not married. She didn't had kids, and she devoted all his life for charity, for the hospitals and everything. And because of that, Chico was very interested to know. He got to know that she was cremated, and so that he asked Emmanuel to take him there. And Emmanuel took Chico to see her, and Chico interviewed her, and she told Chico that she didn't remember her destination, and she just woke up in a hospital in the spiritual world. But at one time, everyone, the medical, personnel, and also the ones that were helping her recovery there in the hospital, and also her parents, grandparents, and brothers and sisters that were discriminated before her. They all get together around her in one time. And she asked them, what is happening? What is going on? And then they told her, this is the moment where your body will be cremated on earth. And we must construct here a magnetic field to protect you by our prayers, so that you cannot or could not feel this moment. And because of all of this preparation, at the right time, she felt, nevertheless, she felt a ray from her it's cold to, her feet, and she could feel the heat of that. But it was like seconds of, not feeling so well, and then she recovered very, very fast. And then Chico told me, this is a woman, that had her whole life devoted to charity.
So very little attachment to matter,
Yes.
as a spiritist would say.
Yes, that's right. And nevertheless, she felt a ray of, like, thunder or something that just was burning her spiritual body. And then I would also say that we can study the sayings of Emmanuel in the book The Consoler. Emmanuel asks us to have a benevolent feeling towards the discarnate. We have to understand that the process of death does not complete with the cerebral stop or cerebral death,
The brain death.
the brain death, or even the heart to be stopped. That this is not the end of the process of discarnation.
There's still a connection
Yes.
between the perispirit or the astral body and the physical body.
And it's interesting also to know that the spirit of Humberto de Campos also wrote through Chico Xavier. And he was very critical about the cremation process. And he asked us, if we, to incarnate, we have to take 9 months to assume a new body, why in the world we can think that the discarnation process is a process of some hours? That's not reasonable, And he also asked us to give time to the discarnate, to be respectful. And he also states that that it is better to bury someone than to cremate someone, because not everyone is prepared to this shock of of 2 words.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I've actually been reading Heaven and Hell lately. I've been studying, and I see the cases. You just read about the case by case of all the different people who have disincarnated, and what happens. A lot of them, if they're attached to matter, they feel the pain, and they're still attached to the body. So in this case, you're talking about someone who was very unattached to matter.
Yeah.
That through, if you were reading Heaven and Hell, you might have the idea that they would probably have an easier separation from the body. But in that case, it was a danger.
And she got, all the protections of the medical personnel, and also her relatives in the spiritual world. They were all praying for her, and they made this magnetic field to protect her.
So in another case, with somebody maybe who has more materialistic, and like the average person that we might see on the street, more materialistic and less spiritually minded, that's going to be a lot more rough,
difficult.
Yeah.
And also we have to think about the way of the death, because some of us can, have the process by an accident or assassination, or even suicide, which is very abrupt and not good for the soul.
And if it's not at the time,
of course, they would suffer a lot more.
The death doesn't happen at the time when it was supposed to happen, in a natural way. It's happening at an unplanned time.
A violent process. We should think about that also.
And especially in those cases, the spirit would probably be more attached to the body, just because of the way that it was a sudden, unplanned disincarnation.
So the discarnation is not an immediate thing that happens just because your brain is stopped or your heart stopped. And because of that, as a relation to this subject, we can think about the donation of organs also.
This is something my mother told me, that she signed up very young. Like she signed, I'm an organ donor. And her intention is that I want to do something to help somebody else. Like when I die, if my organs can help somebody else live. So the intention is very good.
This is good. Chico was against the organ donation by, just a wave of people that don't think about it. But if the person has, like your mother, the feeling to help another, the real, not attached to her own body, and knowing that she or he can help the ones in need of another organ, this is a good thing, because in that case the spiritual world would protect them, right? But one cannot just say, well, I'm a donor of organs, and no matter what, I would like to donate all of my organs. And we have to think, Chico told me, Geraldinho, we have to think one thing. The largest organ that we have is the skin. And for them to take out the skin, the body must be warm. And most of the time, the heart is beating, Also, if you donate if you say you are a donor of organs, it is understood that you are donating all your organs, and you should think about that. If you donate your heart must be beating for them to take it out. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And Chico told me, no one gives the discarnate anesthesia to do all this process, and the spirit is still attached there. So this is one thing also, that the person that feels in her mind and in her heart that he or she is doing that for the good of the other, in that case, it's okay, but not the other way.
Would it cause any other types of complications for the perispirit? I mean, like as far as, even after the discarnation process and the perispirit, is separated from the material body.
Yes.
I was curious if that would cause any problem, if they might actually have to repair the perispirit in the spiritual world.
Yes, they have. One very good friend of ours, my friend and also Chico's friend, is Terezinha de Castro from Rio de Janeiro. She founded the Spiritist Center in Botafogo, Rio, Seara de Amor e Luz. And one time she told Chico, I think I'm gonna donate all my organs, and then I would like to have my body cremated. What do you think about that? And she told me that Chico was very, preoccupied with that. And he told her, Terezinha, if you think you are not attached to the past, you can do it. And then she just forgot about it, because, in the time of the death, it's very difficult for us to just don't be attached with your own life, your own body. And also I got a message from New York, in Astoria, New York, a friend of Chico that lives there. His name is Hércules Fernandes, and he told me that one time in 1997 he was in Uberaba with Chico, and they went to have a snack in Chico's house, and Chico was very, very upset because one of his friends at the Grupo Espírita da Prece in Uberaba, she was a lady, a widow, and she passed away in the morning, and she had just one son from São Paulo. He came in to Uberaba by plane, and he had her body cremated in this very afternoon. And Chico was very, very upset about that. And he asked to visit her in the spiritual world, and he could not see her because her spirit was not attached to the spiritual body, to the astral body. The astral body in the spiritual body, the perispirit, as Chico told Hercules, that it was under a process of disintegration, atomic disintegration in the spiritual world because of the cremation in the same day of the death. And because of that, her spirit could not manifest itself through a perispirit. And the benefactors, the spiritual benefactors, they were all trying to manipulate matter to materialize a spiritual body, a perispirit, so that she could be attached to this perispirit and goes and live on. And she would see her like planning over the bed in the hospital at the spiritual world. So it's very complicated, right?
It gives you something to think about too, because I haven't written a will or anything. I think I never am going to die. So.
But we have to think about it, right?
Yeah, and definitely when you read the Spiritist literature and Allan Kardec, it puts things in a new light, and we definitely have to just reconsider things. And in this case, it's like when you have that kind of information directly from the source, it definitely like makes you think. Like
you must be, more careful.
Mm-hmm. So, well, I appreciate you staying. We did the podcast before, and now we're doing like almost a podcast interview after the podcast. So
no problem.
It's a late night.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
I really appreciate you coming out here again and talking to me. And I learned a lot. I know people watching on YouTube are gonna. It's definitely food for thought.
Thank you, Steve.
So you can see Geraldinho on Portal Saber Spiritismo on YouTube. It's TV
Saber Spiritism.
And they have a special playlist called To Know Spiritism, which is all in English, videos from Geraldinho, and really interesting stuff. From a guy who knew Chico Xavier firsthand, but not just that, like also very well-knowledge, well-versed in Spiritism and all kinds of things. That's why I read some books by Allan Kardec, and I read some Andre Louis books and things. But sometimes, like, I love listening to Geraldinho because you talk so much about things between the lines, like things that I know a little bit about
those things that I heard from Chico himself. Mm-hmm. So I feel that I have this commitment to pass it on, so that everyone can hear also Chico talking about those things.
Mm-hmm. So it's nice. It's like I thought one time we were here, and I was like, it's kind of like the 6 degrees of separation. Like you knew Chico, and now I know you. So I'm kind of like I feel like
it's a family, right?
Actually,
spiritual family.
To tell on myself, I was actually thinking because Chico. I saw a photo one time. It was a painting, Chico hugging Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I thought, like, okay, well, Chico was friends with Jesus. You were friends with Chico. And I'm friends with, so I'm like 3 people away from Jesus.
Good.
So it's good. I got friends in high places. Well, thanks again, and
thank you.
I look forward to seeing you here again. I don't know when, but hopefully soon.
Yeah, soon. I'll be back in January.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
All right.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah.